going to work. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work through a problem where we're doing a straight line depreciation. And in this particular case, this company owns a truck worth $40,000. It's being depreciated at a rate of $5,000 a year, and you can see how this equation is really made up of the fact that you're going to really deduct X sets of $5,000 away from an original $40,000 to give you a value in any given number of years that you've owned this truck. And so the negative 5,000 is really like a slope. We're losing $5,000 a year from the original value. So we're going down 5,000 for every year, right? Okay, and I'm just going to walk through the solution to each of these questions. So here's A. It says, what is the value of the y-intercept? Well, one of the most important things in a word problem is we have to go ahead and really understand what the variables represent. And it says y is the value of the truck in dollars at any given point, and x is the number of years where we've actually been depreciating the vehicle. So if it says what is the y-intercept must be where x, or the number of years, must be 0. And when I do that here, I mean, this is a pretty obvious answer, but I would put 0 in for x. But now that I understand the variables, where x is the number of years that I've owned it, it makes sense when I interpret this answer of $40,000, that $40,000 is the value at time 0, or really the original value of the truck. Because this question says not only find the y-intercept, but what does it mean to the company? It's what the company says the original value of the truck was at the beginning. Okay, then the next problem. It says find the value of the x-intercept and explain what it means to the company. So the x-intercept is where y is 0. Well, remember, y is the truck's value. So if the truck's value is 0, that must be at the end of not the ownership of the truck necessarily, but the end of the depreciation of the truck as an asset to the company. So now I'm going to solve this problem. And this should give me the number of years it takes for the value of this truck to be 0 after I depreciated it by $5,000 every year. So I could either move this negative 5,000x over or the 40,000 over. I think I'll just move this term over to the other side as if I added 5,000x to both sides. I'm going to divide by 5,000. And I have x is equal to 8 years. So it's going to take 8 years to depreciate it. Now it's going to ask me the last question, and the reason for the graph here is I'm going to try to put together a graph of really what is a picture of the depreciation trajectory for this asset, this truck, over this period of time. It says use the intercepts to graph. So we're going to go ahead and say that the original value of the truck, the answer to A, was 40,000, and the number of years that it took to go ahead and completely write it off to 0 value right down here was 8 years. And I'm just going to go ahead and draw a straight line through there. I'm just going to borrow a ruler over here. And this line should trace the value in any given year. In other words, if I went up here, at 3 years it'd be worth this much. And at 5 years it'd be worth this much, and so on, right? And it has one more question here. I did not really maybe show the class this when we worked on this in class, but right here it says, use this question, use the equation. Now we're not going to do it with the graph. That was a way we did it in a problem in our homework in the book. We used the graph. But this says use the equation to calculate the value of the truck after 3 years. So remember, we tried to really understand the variables, that the x coordinate, the x variable is really the number of years that we've owned the truck. Remember up here it said that after x years of ownership. So what I think we should do is put 3 into x into our equation, and we're going to solve for the value after 3 years, and it's going to look like this. We're really taking away $15,000 of value. And so this is negative 15,000 plus 40,000, or our truck after 3 years on the books is worth $25,000, right? And by the way, though, the graph should prove that out as well. So if I went and I did this, and I took a look, I mean, we're done answering the question according to how they asked me to do it. But if I took a look here, I'm kind of curious. If I went up here at 3 years and connected to my value line, right? This is the value at any given number of years. I should be able to draw a horizontal line over here, and it really should hit the y-axis at $25,000 if I've done a decent job of doing the graph. And let's just see if that happens. I mean, this is rough, but it does look like, I mean, it's not exactly there, but it's pretty close to being in the middle of 30 and 20,000. I mean, and the better job I did of the graph, the more accurate this would be. Why? Because theoretically, this graph is doing the same thing as my equation. It's correlating the number of years of ownership to value. And so at 3 years of ownership, the value is 25,000. Now, even though a picture really is a good way to get a sense of what's going on, the algebra is a more precise way often to get an exact answer, right?